Hi, I'm Sarah with Grace in My Space, and today I am at my mom's house. This is Linda. You can find her at Weathervane Farm on Instagram, where she does all things vintage clothing and roses. She has a beautiful rose garden, and today she's going to share all of her knowledge from her years of gardening with you. Welcome to my garden.
So the first thing I do when I get down to the rose garden is go to the roses and start looking for beetles, because they are determined to destroy my beautiful roses. They just literally chew right through all of the leaves, and they hide in between. So I'm kind of cruel. I'm determined they're not going to get to my roses. So if I see one, I cut it in half, or I throw it to the ground and stomp on it. I know lots of people just pick them off and throw them in a bucket of soapy water, but I don't have time to stand there and deal with soapy water. So they just have to die. The second thing I do every day is deadhead. So like this one down here is done. I snip those off because that keeps the energy going to the bush and not into forming rose hips. It's also important, though, not to overcut your roses, because if I come down here and every day I cut every beautiful bloom that there is, the rose is not going to have the energy to keep blooming. So you don't want to overcut them. This year I'm trying to kind of start a flower business, and I didn't know that at first, and so I contacted David Austin Roses, which, by the way, is an incredible resource for you. David Austin Roses is also my favorite place to buy them, but I'm also growing the Old English roses because I want roses that have the fragrance, and a lot of them have those double full blooms, and so that's why I go to them. If you're looking for roses that are going to be for cutting, like you just want to cut away, then you need to not be growing the Old English ones, because your bush can't sustain that much cutting. But as you can see, I'm trying to get enough rose bushes in here that I can cut as much as I need without exhausting one particular bush. So daily, you need to deadhead your roses and make sure you're picking off bugs. The other important thing to do with rose bushes is if you see a diseased leaf, you want it off right away. Otherwise, your diseases are going to spread quickly, and like black spot can spread very fast. So the first year that I had the rose garden, it was the end of the season, winter about to set in, and I saw my shrubs had a lot of this. And I thought, oh, no big deal. They're all going to fall off because it's winter, and I can just leave them on there, and next year it'll be gone. Well, the problem with that is when the leaves fall off, it gets in your soil. And so next year when your shrub comes up, it's full of this. So that's why it's so important not to leave disease in your garden at all. Okay, so one of the brands that I use is this one. And it's probably the one that I use the most for the disease. It's not so much, it controls mites, and it does a great job of that. Disease control, it says it lasts 3 months. It doesn't. I spray probably weekly, but it does work. It just doesn't last the way it says. I also then, for bug clear, this is the one I've just tried for Japanese beetle. But what I have found is they're all working great on the leaves of the bush, because the leaves don't come and go. It's the buds that are getting the beetles on them. So a new bud opens up and it doesn't have the spray inside of there, and so the beetle can crawl right in and start munching away. So I think that is going to be the case with any spray that you buy, because every time a bloom opens, unless you spray it, you're not going to get the bugs to stay away. So the best thing is to come out and grab them. And I did just purchase a brand called Dr. Earth that is supposed to be an all-natural option, but it is a powder, and you have to puff it on each bush, each bloom, and I have not tried it yet because it's going to just look ugly. I grow a rose garden because I want to come down here and see its beauty, and I don't really want to see my bushes all covered in white powder. I might try sprinkling it on the ground because some of these do lay eggs in the soil and hatch from the ground, so maybe that will help control things, but I'm still out on that. I don't know yet. This is one of my favorite roses right here. These are babyer blooms, but it's that super old-fashioned rose. I buy roses for the fragrance. If I look at a rose to order and it doesn't say that it has a great smell, I don't buy it no matter how beautiful it is. This rose is called Betty White. She's one of my favorite roses. The fragrance is amazing. The blooms are amazing. These are absolutely one of my favorites. And by the way, these are all still babies. All these bushes are babies. I only started my rose garden 3 years ago. Every year I have learned something new, but look at you can't beat that. It's so beautiful. It's got shades of apricot and pale pink, and it smells stunning. It's amazing. I love this one. The second thing that I learned this the second year, so I'm getting better. Every year I do learn something important. I have a sprinkler system down here, and I had been just turning on the sprinkler system and watering and thinking I was doing great, and I couldn't understand why I was getting so much disease on the roses. They don't like to be wet, and a lot of times I was watering them later in the evening where the water didn't have time to dry off of the leaves, and so it was just a feeding ground for disease. So I got rid of my sprinkling system down here. I put in a spigot and a hose, and I water each bush by myself under the bush. I mean, obviously when it rains, you can't control whether or not it's going to be raining at the right time of day. So you will have to be more guarded as to your black spot too. But when you're watering yourself, it's best if you don't get your leaves all wet. Just water from the ground. This is the biggest rose that I have. As you can see, it's my largest shrub. Well, for 2 years, all it did was have leaves. I could never get it to bloom. And so this year, I came out at the beginning of the year. I said, you are either going to bloom this year or you're out of here. I will tear you out. Guess what? It has bloomed continually since the beginning of the season without a hitch. I also learned, however, that I think I was over-fertilizing, and so all it was producing was leaves. If you over-fertilize, you won't get the blooms, you'll get beautiful leaves. So while I did threaten it, and it worked, it could also be that I have not been over-fertilizing. I have lots of pinks, but I do have lots of different shades of pink. I have apricots, I have bright pinks, I have reds, yellows. I'll tell you, when I first started planting roses, I was terrible about marking the name of the rose because I thought, well, what does it matter? Why do I even need to know? But I have learned that I do need to know because people ask me, what kind of rose is it? And I can't tell them. So I have gotten better this year. So when I first started the garden, if we turn around for a sec, I had the 6 beds that were up there. Then last year we added the 3. This year, because I can't stop buying roses, and I'm purposely keeping open space, although my husband doesn't know it yet, but I did just order 4 more roses. And my husband is not completely aware either that next year we're building one of these on the other side of the house. Because if I'm going to do bouquets, I need more space for annuals and perennials that I can use as fillers. So hopefully he's on board with all of that. We'll see. Yet to be determined. This is a new addition this year. Sarah's father-in-law made this for me. And so I have planted 2 different climbers, hoping that they're going to grow up and meet in the middle. That pretty little sweet delicate bloom is Awakening. Top 5 tips that I would tell you is, first of all, water from the ground. It's very important to keep the black spot away. I would also say that checking your bushes every day for disease is important. Deadheading your roses is important. And first and foremost, grow what you love. I mean, if you find a rose that is your dream, just purchase it, but purchase it from a reputable seller. I will also tell you that, yes, David Austin roses and heirloom are both more expensive, but it's worth it. You get healthy plants, so you don't necessarily get that with some companies. You also don't pick a rose that the leaves are brown, it's diseased, it's dead. You might think that, oh, I can save it. I can take it home and save it. But if you put that rose in your garden and it's diseased, you are going to introduce that disease to every other bush in your garden. So I would say don't do it. And keep the weeds out. It's important. When we put this together, I have mesh matting barrier down. This is a really thick layer of mulch down, and it will keep you from going completely crazy. I could easily spend 2 hours a day taking care of these roses. I don't spend 2 hours every day, but I would guess that I'm out here at least an hour a day. So just make sure that you don't plant more than you have time to care for as well. But grow what you love. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about your garden. As long as you love it, that's what's important. It's all worth it, because look what you get in the end.
Thanks so much for stopping by. Make sure to hit the subscribe button for more to come.
Thanks for coming to my garden. Hope you enjoyed it.